I believe what's going to happen, I mean, the numbers I've been looking at that I think are going to work is lots are going to be $50,000. And, you know, and I want to tell you right now, you could buy a little house, you could buy a piece of land with a little house on it for less than that, Costa Rica. Okay, and this isn't going to give you a house. This is just a piece of land. The difference is you're in a conscious community. And the community is going to provide all kinds of things. So there's a community structure where there'll be shared meals and a library and classes. You know, things, I mean, we're actually creating something where we're supporting each other. Tools, I mean, I'm thinking we might do a laundry center. So if you want a washer and dryer, you can have them, but you don't have to. The community will own 5 washers and dryers. And, you know, we could even employ someone to actually do it for you. That's their job, right? It doesn't cost much here to hire people. But, you know, it's where I grew up, everybody had washers and dryers and lawnmowers and shovels and brooms, which we might have used in the summer maybe every week or two, but most of the year not at all. And people invest a lot of stuff in stuff they don't really use. With a community, we can share all those things. So there's a community tool depot. You need a saw or a shovel, you go and borrow one. It doesn't cost you anything. The community owns that stuff, and you don't have to. Okay? You don't need to have a washer and dryer if you don't want to, because we'll have a place to do that. So you're paying because part of what you're paying for is to support the project. But you're also paying to be part of something that's much bigger. The public will pay to get into the nature preserve. Community members will have free access. Okay? Free access as well to the Botanical Garden. The permaculture, I'm not sure the tour, how that'll work. I mean, probably every community member will get a free tour, and then, you know, you'll be able to take, well, I guess your guess, I'm not sure how, we'll have to look at all that. There'll be incentives. I mean, you'll have benefits to being there, in addition to being able to earn money, if you choose to. Go ahead.
So, you know, is the time to get a piece of land now and then that's it? What about in 10 years?
Can I say something?
Well, in 10 years, there may not be any lots available because the community will be limited. So if you know you want part of it, I mean, what are the things that's going to be possible? And I have to work it all out. But we're going to be asking people very soon who are ready and who know they want to be part of this. We're going to tell them, look, you can put up $10,000 and you can then make payments. And it could be small payments, maybe over many years. But that way you lock in your right, and you don't get to. I've got a lot to figure out still. So I'm not sure. You might not be able to get to choose a lot until you've got to a certain point, right? Because I mean, if it's going to take you 20 years to pay or 10 years to pay, it may not be fair to be able to say this is yours if you've just got that where someone else comes in with all their money and is ready to move in. I'm not sure. I've got some things to figure out.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Like you explained all the project.
Mm-hmm.
It would be useful to explain like the next steps, like for us or.
Well, I'm telling you right now, the next step is if you're ready to commit, would be to put up 10 grand. And you know, if I can get enough people to do that, I can go to the bank. You would sign something called letter of intent to buy, and I can't sell you anything, so I can't actually sell you. I can't sign a sales contract because I don't have the land to sell you yet. But you know, if you trust me, and there are a couple people who've already done this, who've already said, "Yep, I trust you. I'll put up some money. I'll get a lot when the time comes. They'll have their first choice of which lots they want. But if you're not ready to do that, I completely understand. That's not for everyone. These are people that know me and trust me. If you're not ready to do that, you sign a letter of intent. You put up 10 grand. It could be just that for the time being until we actually have land. Then you start making payments. I have a client who was here 6 months ago who has built several $100 million businesses, who tells me, you get enough people to put up 10 grand with a letter of intent, the bank will easily lend you the money. I mean, not all of the money, not 20 million, but, whatever at least that piece would support. So, like the community piece, we can get the money for that. If enough people have said, I'm serious about this, here's $10,000. If I can say to them, look, here's $200,000 put up by 20 people who want to be part of the project. I need to borrow $400,000 to make this work. I don't think that'd be so difficult to do. Okay? So that's the next step. The next step, if you know anyone, if you know people that actually have more significant money to invest, I'm looking for that, because I'm going to need to raise, ideally, at least $2 million in the next 5 or 6 months. And it's a significant chunk of money. But if we can do that, what we can do is we can take down the first piece as well as some of the other pieces. I mean, ideally, we would take down the big piece, the permaculture pieces, right? There's 3 contracts there. The piece where the Botanical Garden is, the piece where we're going to start building, and maybe 1 or 2 others. We don't need all the land right now. Some of it can wait. But these are the first things. The permaculture piece, it takes years to grow fruit trees. The sooner we can plant them, the sooner we have something that's worth seeing, the sooner we're producing food, right? So we want to do it as soon as possible. The Botanical Garden, I mean, we can actually create pretty spectacular beauty in just a few years, as we've done here. But, the more time, the sooner we have it, the sooner we have something that people are going to pay to see. So the faster we can take that down, the better. I've had several clients over the years. I had a client once pull me aside after this conversation and say, do you know the Phoenix family? And I said, do you mean Joaquin Phoenix? He said, yeah. I said, I don't know them, no. I know who they are. He said, well, they're friends of mine. And they own property here on this peninsula. And they're vegans. And they might be interested. They have plenty of money. They might be interested. So maybe somebody here, if you don't have access to $50,000 or $100,000 or more is fine. Maybe you know someone who does. Okay? I mean, I hear from people all the time. In the last 2 days, I've heard from 2 people who've said, I heard your live Facebook broadcast on Friday. I'm interested in the community. How do I get involved? What do I do? So this is real, and I'm committed. So I'm going to do everything I can to make this happen. Right now, the next big step, the stumbling block, is the money. We can raise the money. Now, it's interesting. I was at a conference in Hawaii for people. I'm a member of an organization for change makers. They're people who are out there trying to do positive things for the world. And there was a guy there who just financed a $1 billion project.
Whoa.
And he said, how big is it? I said, it's going to be 20 million probably. He said, that's great. He said, if it's got to be at least 10 million, then it's easy. He said, if it's less than that, it's much harder. It's much easier to raise the money if it's big enough. We'll see.
So is it gonna be possible to live there even if you don't own land in the future? Or you can't then be part of the community?
So the community the intentional community is going to be made up primarily of people who own, who are actually contributing by owning. There will be the possibility for some limited number of people to rent there, but they won't have a voice in the community. They won't be full community members. And that's typical in these communities. The actual voting community members, and the community piece is separated from the rest of this project, right? Because as community members, you have a voice in that. You own that. You own your part of that. If there's eventually 100 community members, each of those has an equal voice. Okay, that won't be true for the rest of the project. You won't control the rest of the project. The benefit of being there is that because you're there, you could be first of all, you can enjoy the rest of the project, right? I mean, it's a pretty cool place to be because it's a spectacularly beautiful area, and there's nothing there. I mean, we're going to control pretty much all the land there, and so we don't have to worry about too much else going on. I mean, my goal is to control all the land. We're finding that there's some people that don't want to sell, a few, but most of them are open to selling.
How big are the lots?
I don't know exactly how big the lots are, but I can tell you that from researching intentional communities over the last 20 years, they should be fairly small. The objective is, see, if you create, especially here, I remember once I had a guy say to me, we were in Panama, we were talking about this, he said, I'd like to have a couple hectares. Now, Tanglewood in Panama was on 2 hectares, and I had 4 full-time gardeners, and we could not, we only cultivated maybe 30% of the area, and we couldn't keep up with it. I said, you want 2 hectares to yourself. What are you going to do with that? You would, if you had a machete in both hands and you were 24 hours a day, you couldn't keep up with the growth there. It's way too much land, right? What we want to do, and so what happens is if you have big lots, people wind up spending all their time on their property trying to manage it. What you want to do is have relatively small lots and then common area that people share. And that's what actually makes the community successful. They shouldn't be too big. There'll be different options. And 50 grand will probably be typical. There might be some that are bigger and more expensive, and maybe there'll be some that'll be smaller. I'll eventually also want to create something, maybe where the commercial village is, there could be housing for older people who don't want to have to hike long paths, because they're, again, for the community, the idea is parking and then you walk. So there, kids, there's no pollution, there's no noise of vehicles. We would have to have a way to get to each place in the event of emergencies, or to move furniture and building supplies. So there'd have to be a road, but the idea would be, it would actually be a foot trail most of the time. And there might be electric vehicles when people, which you have to reserve, if you want to move furniture, stuff like that. Right? You'd have to be able to get there, but most of the time, you park and then you'd walk. But for people that don't want to do that, and maybe that, or if let's say you own a business. I mean, the commercial village, you could have a first floor shop or restaurant. You could live above it if you wanted to. That's possible too. There's going to be other options. In fact, as the community grows, it might be possible. It might make sense. There might be some other residential areas, which would frankly be commercial engines to help support the whole project. Because, again, I mean, it's wonderful to preserve all this land, but it's only going to happen if investors can get paid. I mean, maybe someone with a ton of money says, look, I believe in this, I want to support this, here's $20 million. Awesome. In that case, we don't have to create a residential community that's just there to make money. But selling residential lots, we could, for instance, sell houses to people for $300,000 or $400,000 each, and could probably make a pretty good profit on that, which would support buying more land. I mean, my objective is to create something that's amazing and to preserve as much land as possible. I'll be honest with you, I believe in being transparent. I don't get a salary here, I don't take a salary. I could pay myself, except we wouldn't have been able to do everything we've done up until now. Because I pay the staff, and I pay their Social Security, where everything's on the books, so they get Social Security, we pay taxes, we pay utilities and insurance and mortgages, and there's nothing else left, because I'm investing in the property. Eventually, I may not want to keep working 80 hours a week, right? And so my plan is to actually create something where I make some money, I put some money aside, I have a paid for home, because I don't have anything right now. And I'm getting close to 60, it'd be nice to not have to work forever. So I do plan on making some money. But the goal is not to become a zillionaire. The goal is to have a little bit of money set aside, and then to create something that's amazing for the world. For anybody that wants to be part of it, for people who want to come check it out, even for people who never want to come check it out. Because we could have, we could be creating documentaries about everything we're doing, right? We could be creating an online magazine. Do people still read print magazines? Yeah. I guess some people do. Yeah. Maybe that would make sense too, I don't know.
The dentist would.
Right. Sell them to all the dentist office. you know, my objective is to create something that really serves as a model, where we can create a community of people who are truly turned on, happy, healthy, passionate about what they're doing, what they're part of, and then share that vision. Because there's no reason that there can't be many communities like this all over the world.
So we have till February and that's it?
No. To become part of the community, you have until there's no more lots available.
Oh,
However, you know, here's the thing about February. I have until February to come up with a big chunk of cash.
right.
So if you're interested and can make something happen before then, it would help make the project a reality. If I don't come up with the money, what happens is I lose the contract, I lose all the money I've invested, and the other contracts, I mean, I don't think the project makes sense without the first piece with the waterfalls. That's kind of the crown jewel. Everything else is built around that.
Have you explored like all 10,000 acres?
No,
Okay.
I haven't. It would be,
It's a lot of space.
it's a lot of space.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on the property numerous times. There's a guy who's got an amazing background with permaculture and natural building. And he's a great guy, and I hired him to come do some consulting. And he was here for, what was he here for? 4 or 5 days, I think. Do you remember?
4 days.
4 days, and 3 days in a row we went over there and spent hours hiking and seeing as much as we could. But we still didn't come close to scratching the surface.
You got to get in a helicopter.
Helicopter would be good. We have a drone which is going to be repaired soon. It unfortunately landed in the pool last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't work now. It flew, I think, 3 or 4 times, and now it doesn't fly.
I saw a video where somebody actually accidentally did the same thing, and they tried it out, and it did work.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that'll work. Right now, it's not working, and it's packed up to get shipped off to a place in San Jose that says they can fix it. So we'll see. Hopefully, we'll get that repaired soon, because the goal was actually by this weekend was to get over there and shoot a bunch of drone footage, and now we don't have a working drone. So,
I should have brought mine.
Excuse me.
yeah, of course, of course. Any other questions? Anybody? So I'd love more feedback. What do you guys think? A couple of you spoke up. Does it sound interesting?
I think it's amazing.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you. Talking to each of you. but-
Without my classes, I can't see where you
Okay. Yeah, I was talking to you in
Yes,
that moment.
It is amazing, yes. And I'm already thinking about, how I can come up with some money.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've already talked about it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. And I'm just thinking about all the people I've met who have tried to build something. I met somebody her family owned 6,000 acres of ranch land in Northern California, and they had a really hard time as just a single family, even paying the taxes, because like the more land you get, I don't know what the tax situation is here.
Yeah.
The more you pay in taxes, and so.
Well, fortunately, because the majority of this land will be nature preserve, there's I don't know if there's no tax liability or very, very little.
That's great.
Yeah. In fact, it's actually possible. There's an organization here that will pay you. I mean, you have to apply for it, and they don't accept every project. But it's entirely possible to get accepted into a project where they actually pay you per hectare of land that you're preserving. There's also, I think you can still, I don't know about this, I haven't really looked into this, but I think you can still get, what are those, credits for growing clean air? Carbon credits.
Offset. Carbon offset.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can sell those credits to businesses that need them. And I mean, it's, I'm not completely clear, I understand, and that I'm not completely clear it's really like, that I like some of that, because we're sort of, but it's a way to help make the project happen. It's a way to support something that's positive. So I'd probably do it. I mean, I think Yeah, I understand the challenges. I can tell you, though, I've had a lot of people who've said, I'm interested in the project. And, you know, what's different here is, I mean, we're in Costa Rica, a tourist destination. We have the highest waterfall in Central America. We have 14 other waterfalls.
Yeah.
We have what will become a significant nature preserve.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, with the other, I mean, I think we bring it all together, it won't be difficult to bring tourists in.
Yeah, so where I was going with the comment was that whatever it is, there's no, I'm not questioning the how great it is. Like, we talked on Sunday and I was here on Friday.
Right.
I think
Right.
it's great. But where I was going with it is, in my experience of how things get built, there's kind of a magic formula of organizing. And then there are stages of growth, and you get the growth in chunk sizes that are achievable,
Uh-huh,
and in stages.
right.
And there's kind of a magic formula of like what attracts a critical mass of people, because it sounds like there's a lot of different projects.
There are.
It's very diverse.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And yet, I mean, I think, you know, we'll start, for instance, we'll have to create a plan for the Botanical Garden. And that'll have to get built in stages, because it's too much to do at one time.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about 15, but I mean, it won't all be garden. You know, what I see up there eventually is a little boutique hotel, a restaurant on the ground floor, and then rooms up above. And, you know, I mean, imagine rooms up there on a second floor with these 360-degree views from up there, and, you know, maybe a roof deck. And then you've got these incredible botanical gardens all around. So from your room, you're looking out over gardens, and you're looking beyond that over these incredible views. I think that'd be a winner.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's going to have to be developed in stages. There's no question about it. If there's enough money available, hiring people here is relatively easy, because there's very little work here.
That's good.
And I've got quality people that would be happy to come work. I've got a guy right now who's working in a management position at he's a neighbor, and he drives to Nicoya every day to work for the company that is owned by Walmart. There's Walmarts in San Jose. Out here, and a few other places, but here they have a brand called Pali and Maxi Pali. So Maxi Pali is a big warehouse store with food and other stuff, everything.
I've seen that.
Yeah. This guy is you know, not the top manager, not the store manager, but he's got a management position there. He's been there for years. He's very responsible. He's a neighbor. I know him well. He would much rather be part of this project than work over there. And I know there are tons of people here that would be very happy. I mean, all of our staff are thrilled to be here because we take care of them, and they're in a beautiful place, and they're close to home. And they've got family members that they're always trying, you know, can you use somebody else? My sister, my cousin. We're not going to have any trouble finding good quality workers. And it doesn't cost much. So if we can raise the money to make it happen, we can make it happen.
You looked at Yosemite Valley? It's kind of an amazing place because it's gorgeous by itself. You don't have to leave the valley
Right.
to be in nature, to enjoy it. There's, you know, El Capitan and Half Dome, and but you're in the middle of a national, one of the great jewels of the world.
Right.
And they have, you can see it very simple. There's price points for accommodations. There's campgrounds, there's Curry Village.
Right.
Then there's Yosemite Lodge, which is kind of like the motel,
Right.
the Best Western. And
Right.
then it's now called the Majestic Hotel at Yosemite, which is an abomination. It used to be called the Iwani. And for whatever reason, I think because they couldn't manage it, they sold the rights to Aramac, which is so they renamed it, however that worked. But that seems like a logical.
Yeah.
staging.
We'll
Yeah.
do something similar.
Yeah.
Same thing at the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, it makes perfect sense. You know, we don't want to exclude people because they're the size of their pocketbook. So people that, you know, have $20 a night can stay in a campground and be fine. And then, you know, there are people who aren't coming. There are people who don't come here because we're not exclusive enough and we're not luxurious enough.
I was curious about that.
Oh,
Like, you're turning people away. If you opened up the calendar, you think it would be full.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not so sure we could currently fill 52 weeks a year. But I believe if we worked on it, we could.
Yeah.
And we don't do any marketing.
That's amazing.
Zero, and we never have. We do YouTube videos, and you know we just started doing them every day, and we're actually seeing more people showing up now because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I got pretty lazy there for a while. I was too busy. It wasn't laziness. It just wasn't enough time to do it. So, but we've always stayed full from people coming back. I mean, including the volunteers here. You know, Peter's fasted twice and is fasting again in January, and Gazelle came to fast twice, and then you know didn't want to go home, so I let her stay. We love having Gazelle around. You know, Benjamin is back. Who knows? Maybe he'll fast again at some point. But including the people who are volunteering here, we have I think 8 or 9 people here now who've been here before and are here for some other, you know, are back again. We get a lot of people coming back. We get a lot of people referring people to us, and we've stayed busy for 21 years doing that. If we needed to, we could start marketing. And I don't think we'd have any trouble getting full if we did that. We've never done it. You know, we could create a budget for that and actually go out there and look for the business, but we've never had to before.
So the $10,000, is that as long to put down with a commitment?
Yep.
Is that until you run out of properties or just till February?
No, that's until we run out of properties. But if we don't get enough money before February, there may not be a project.
You said $10,000 and keep making payments?
Yeah, 10,000. The lots are going to be 50,000. The $10,000 is the deposit.
Oh, so
But
that's-
the idea is to make it possible for people who, I mean, there are a lot of people that could write a check for 50 grand. But if you're not in that position, then you could, you know, if you can put up 10 grand,
I don't know.
you can take years to pay it off.
I work.
What's that?
No, I work.
Yeah, so the idea is to try to make it possible for people that don't have the money right now but want to be part of it. That's the idea.
Can you work at the community to pay it off?
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to work, but I can't say for sure, but I don't think so.
So you can't earn money at the community?
Well, I don't know. I'm not so sure that's going to be possible.
So when you work at the community, you don't get paid?
Well, when you say work at the community, what do you mean? Where's the community? What kind of work are you talking about?
You filled it up with
I don't know, you
restaurant.
said there's gonna be a lot of jobs. What-
Yeah, no, okay.
Maybe
The,
you
the
could-
job, the jobs are for local people. We can't hire people unless you have a work permit. So the people who work here are all local Ticos. Those are the jobs I'm talking about, creating hundreds of jobs for locals. You have the opportunity to be a business owner, okay?
And then you can.
I can't hire you to be a maid. You're not going to be sweeping floors or stocking shelves, but you could have an ownership, a percentage of ownership, or complete ownership in a business, and it might be possible. You know, there's going to be a couple. I mean, again, there's lots still to work out. I'm working on
Don't
this.
you earn money from your business?
Who? Doesn't who own
owns the
money?
business? Say I own a business, a little shop or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that's not a job. You can own a business and make money. That's what a business owner does, hopefully. You
That's
have,
not a job?
well, no, it's not.
What do you think?
What do you mean? A job is where you work for somebody else and get paid. A business is where it's your thing.
Yeah, but
You-
it's still work.
Right, but you have to invest in the business. You have to.
Okay, but a business and a job are two different things. Okay? Business owners are people who don't want a job. They don't want to go work for somebody else. You want a job?
It's a word thing.
Lola, you want a job? Words are important. Words are how we understand things. Okay, this is different. You can have a business. Okay, business, what that means is you can go out there and make it happen. There's going to be a bunch of businesses in this little commercial village, right? You've been to a ski village? Beautiful little places, little towns. They're beautiful, right? They're small scale. It's friendly. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I like walking around Manhattan where there's 50-story buildings. It's like, okay, this, right? But where you're in a place where the buildings are 1 and 2 stories and it feels friendly and it's beautiful, it's a whole different feel. And that's the idea, is to create that. So you have the ability to create something. You create an amazing business. You can make as much money as you can make. At a job, you can make whatever they agree to pay you.
I get it, it was a word thing.
It's a very different scenario. So there won't be jobs for community members because unless you get citizenship or have get a work permit, we can't hire you. And we're doing everything here legally.
We have something in the Bahamas where if you invest $500,000, then you will automatically
Get residency.
Right.
Do they have that here?
Yes, it's not automatic, but it's pretty automatic.
Yeah, but I mean,
It
if
can
you,
take a
if
while.
you have to apply for
If
it.
you have to apply for it, but it's, if you have money invested, they're gonna give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not $500,000 here. It's only, I think it's 200,000.
Okay. So if you bought a piece of
But
property.
if you got $500,000,
Yeah.
you take it.
If you, I think it's like $250,000 now. It used to be half. If you, let's say you bought a piece of property for $250,000 here, would that give you the right?
Well, if you actually have to have your money invested. So for
Oh, it has
instance,
to be invested.
I bought this property, but I didn't pay with my own money, most of it. I have 2 loans when I bought it. So I don't, that doesn't help me.
Oh,
Actually, they actually want to see your money, your equity in the property, your money invested.
okay. I got
Okay?
it.
So eventually, I can, if I paid these loans off, except I'm about to refinance, so I'm not paying anything off. Eventually, theoretically, I could apply for residency. I don't have residency. I currently leave every 90 days, and I've been doing that for 7 years. And it's not that big a deal for me,
Every 3 months.
every 3 months. It's a little bit inconvenient sometimes. Sometimes I wish I didn't have to do that.
Sometimes you need a break.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd be happy to take a break without having to go fly somewhere.
He's in here rather not go anywhere.
I'd just as soon have some free time here to just hang out and relax. And right now I have to travel sometimes when I don't want to.
Do you pay your staff when it's closed?
Yeah, they're full-time. They work full 12 months of the year. I don't know what they're doing most of the time, because I'm not here when we're closed most of the time. Right now I'm traveling and speaking.
Do you get paid when you travel and speak? How does that work?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a bit problematic. I mean, right now, most of the speaking I do is organized by clients who, someone who lives somewhere that wants me to come, and they organize events. And sometimes, like my ex-girlfriend is organizing a month's worth of events in Israel right now. I'll be there from most of December, the end part of November. I'll make some money on that trip. Not a lot. I mean, I used to camp out. I'd stay on people's couches or wherever. I'm not willing to do that anymore. So I get a hotel, and it's got to be a pretty good one because I need a nice bed, or I'm miserable if I don't get a good night's sleep. So, but usually what happens is the tour covers my expenses, including travel, and I usually make a little bit of money, and we generate business.
That's your marketing, or part of it.
That's part of it. Yeah. I mean, that's right. I do live. I mean, I see a lot more people see me on YouTube than see me live every year. So, I mean, we've got, in 5 years, we've got several million views on YouTube. I'm only seeing, a couple of hundred people a year in live, most of the events. But my plan is to change that. I'm waiting to hear back, but 2 women I know started a booking agency out of Vancouver, BC, and they know me, they tell me they like my stuff, they've heard me speak. If they're willing to book me into professional gigs, there's a chance to make more money when I speak. And eventually what I'd like to do is create something where I'm going to speak at events where I know, I'm going to have 50 to 100 people, and I'm going to make real money. Because right now, I enjoy traveling, I love meeting people, I love seeing these places, but I'm coming back and it's really, I'm not really making much. What I'd love to do is generate business and come back with
Okay.
some cash.
Yeah. I think a TED
My-
Talk.
my
would
time's
be-
valuable.
TED Talk would be a.
It would be awesome,
Yeah.
yeah. That'll probably be easier to get once I've got a book done.
Yeah.
Once there's, again, being a published author makes a big difference.
Yeah.
That's coming soon.
Cool. And you've got a plan for 3 books?
At least, I'm actually talking 3 adult books, serious books, probably more, at least 3. I've got like 3 I've already sort of mapped out. But I have a children's book, which was written a long time ago, is now being illustrated, and I'm hoping to get it published in the next 12 months. And how many of you, were you here for that? Did you hear it?
Yeah,
I read it, when was that? Last week?
Oh.
Last Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday night.
Were you here?
Yes,
Yeah.
Sunday. Cyrus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother separate piece that I wasn't even thinking about that. That could be it could be a whole franchise there. If it's successful, we can, if we can even cover expenses and pay the illustrator who's given his time to get half the revenue, whatever we sell. If he's happy, I'll be glad to keep going. We'll sell it, we'll write a whole bunch more of those.
Do we have that tonight too, or no?
This will do it for me.
This may have been asked already when I wasn't there, but how long of a time limit, like when do you see this whole project with everything being done, like just in your mind as a vision?
Well, I don't know. I mean, again, it's a big project. It's a big scope. It's going to take a while. Everything being done, it could be 20 years for everything's done. But my goal is to try to raise $20 million within the next year. And if I can do that, if I can raise $10 million next year, we get most of it in process now. I mean, as soon as that money's available, we'll take down the land and we start doing whatever we can. I can hire people, I've got a couple people that can manage people locally that can do that. And I think there's quite a bit we could start making happen at one time. Again, my goal would be, I got a great guy, I think, to run the permaculture piece. We start mapping that out. It's a big piece of land to grow trees on, to grow fruit on. So we have to really organize that, figure out the right design for that as soon as possible, and start planning it as soon as possible. The Botanical Garden, I'd like to do the same thing. I'd like to map it all out, the whole thing, and start planning it as quickly as possible. The building, maybe that happens later. Although, honestly, I know from building, it'd be better to build the building first and then plant around it. What we might have to do is figure out where the building's going to go, start the Botanical Garden at the other end. Because otherwise what happens is when they build, they're going to destroy everything around it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. They flatten everything. It's tough to get them to build sensitively within a space.
So the first things you see being done is the Botanical Garden, the permaculture, right?
No, the very first thing is we build a road down to the bottom of the valley so we can bring tourists into the waterfalls. We build that because that's relatively minor cost. That starts to generate income right away. There's no reason we can't have, the current owner makes his living bringing people to the waterfall. On average, 1 person every day. 365 people a year. This is average. So, we want to get to the point where we've got 100 people a day. That's a good start. 100 people paying $25, $2,500 a day. That adds up pretty fast, right? That's $75,000 a month. Yeah, if we could do that average, right? $75,000 a month. That's, what is that? $900,000 a year. Okay. In 1 year with that much traffic, we've almost paid for that piece of land. And so that's the very, very first thing, because that's the first thing we can market that right now. At the same time, ideally, we're planting planning and planting the Botanical Garden and the food forest, starting those projects. The food forest, it's going to take years just to plant that. Years. We're talking about tens of thousands of trees. Okay? It's going to take money to buy those trees in, and just to get into a lot of time and labor just to get swales built and to get those trees planted. So it's at a minimum, I mean, if we had all the money, it would still be 5 or 6 years before we had the bulk of it built and ready to accept people. Some of it right away. Some of it could be within a year. Parts of it are going to take longer.
And how many different specific fruits like can be grown in Costa Rica that you?
More than I can count.
Okay.
I've only got 20 fingers and toes. Any idea how many varieties of mangoes there are in the world? I don't know how many we can get our hands on, but there's over 5,000 varieties of mangoes.
Wow.
I thought there were 325 varieties of bananas. Someone just told me it's like 900. Was it you? Brian was saying there's 1,000. So, mangoes and bananas, we got 6,000 varieties.
I think there's different varieties of avocados that fruit at different times of year.
There are. I'm not sure that we can ever go 12 months.
Yeah,
My guess is 5 or 6.
My great-grandfather had about 4 different varieties of
We,
avocado.
we've got 5 or 6 here now.
Yeah.
We've got 5 or 6 mangoes here now. But the goal is to collect as many as we can. Some of them aren't even that good. That's okay. I want to show people. Here's everything. I mean, imagine if we could say, right now, the biggest collection I've heard of is maybe 125 kinds of mangoes, something like that. Imagine we could say, we've got 1,000 varieties of mangoes. The mango season would be extended, because again, there's some early ones, there's some late ones. It might be a 3 or 4 month season, 5 month season. We could do just mango events. We could have a mango festival. Okay, we could have mango tours. I mean,
They have a garlic festival in Gilroy, California.
Yeah.
It's huge.
yeah, exactly. Right.
Oh, mercy.
Mangoes are the most popular fruit on the planet. Okay, there'd be a lot of people interested in the mango festival. Right? How many of the bananas? I don't know how many varieties of papayas there are, but probably quite a few. There's so many varieties of fruit most people have never even seen before, heard of before.
Melons also.
Yeah, melons are a little harder here. We can grow melons in the dry season. The rainy season, we're going to try growing them under roof. Thanks. But rainy season, you can't grow. But the fruit trees, there's tons of things we can grow. We have things here that probably many of you have never heard of before or seen before.
We already saw the mangosteen, never saw it before.
Yeah, we've actually got several varieties of mangosteens. We've got several varieties of durians. We've got champodak and champajack and meringue and 3 kinds of jackfruit. Anyone's ever seen a jackfruit growing?
I don't know what that is.
Jackfruit is the largest tree fruit in the world. The fruits themselves can be bigger than gazelle. Okay, up to almost 50 kilos, 45 kilos. They're not usually that big, but they can be. Imagine. Imagine if we had 10 kinds of jackfruit. We have a jackfruit festival.
You're talking to a bunch of people who haven't eaten in
Good point.
You know where I'm at.
Good point. We'll lay off the fruit.
I don't know about you, but I was like, I can take that 50 pounds.
I can mess that up.
I can deal with that.
Loren, when did you start integrating permaculture into what you do?
It was around 23 or 24 years ago. I heard a radio interview with one of the 2 founders of permaculture, and it blew my mind. blew me away. I'm like, holy crap, I had no idea. It made perfect sense to me. And it already, you know, I was already a raw vegan. I'd already fasted quite a few times, dozens of times, and it just fit perfectly. Because it's all the same basic, you know, this is like laws of nature at work, right? Creating healthy ecosystems here, all around us. This entire project will be built on permaculture. Permaculture is not simply growing food. It's how you use resources. It's how you use land. Everything we're going to do is going to be built on these principles. You know, most people here, and this has been true ever since my first location. My first location was in the neighborhood I went to high school in, okay? It was a neighborhood of big houses on small lots, and the house from the outside, well, all the houses had these grassy lawns, and we were up on a little bit of a hill. It was just grass down to the street. And I took all the grass out. I put in a little permaculture installation there, and we had maybe 5 or 6 small fruit trees. We grew melons, we grew all kinds of stuff, and we had lots of cool ornamentals. And my neighbors were like, "What is that?" You know, we had a little fountain. It was beautiful. The people that bought the house, it was diplomats from Venezuela that bought my house when I sold it. And I drove by about 6 months later. They took it all out and put grass back in. I guess they wanted to be like everybody else.
Okay.
It was like, oh my God, unbelievable. But people would walk into this house, and within 15 minutes, everyone would say something like, "The energy here is really amazing." And I you know, it was all natural materials, had this beautiful landscaping all around it. And maybe part of it was what we were doing, the intentions, what we were doing, right? And the same thing happens here. Most of you walked in and said something to me like, "Wow!" Like you'd seen the videos, you'd had some sense of what the place looked like, but most people walk in and go, "Wow, this place is really something." And my goal is to have every tourist get out of their car, and while they're still standing in the parking lot, go, "This is the nicest friggin' parking lot I've ever seen." Like there's something about this parking lot. And then, you know, everything they see, every place they go, they're going, "Wow." Because what happens? They want to come back, right? Do you know the Malibu area? Do you get down to Southern California?
I have.
I know Malibu.
In Malibu, it's actually Topanga Canyon, Malibu Canyon, Topanga Canyon.
Yeah.
There's a place called Inn of the Seventh Ray. It's been there a long time. About 15 years ago, I was on a lecture tour, and someone said, "They've got raw food." So I took a date there one night. It was amazing. I mean, this restaurant, you know, it's dry there, right, most of the time. And so they don't have to worry about rain, but the tables are like separate little patios on the hillside in this canyon. It's all candle. It's just gorgeous. And I thought, that's what we're going to do.
I think I've been there. I couldn't remember the name. Never forgot it.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
What's
Yeah.
it called again?
It's called the Inn of the Seventh Ray.
Okay.
If you're down that way, check it out. I don't know if they still have it, but it was a traditional restaurant, and the owner was turned on to raw foods. So she brought in a raw vegan chef in addition to the regular chef. They had 2 chefs, and they have a regular menu and a raw vegan
Because I
menu.
know I did not have vegan food.
They didn't?
I didn't have
You
vegan
didn't.
food.
Yeah.
There's a
Now
soccer.
you know better.
There's a soccer football team I think in Ireland, somewhere in Europe, and the owner is, I think he owns a solar company, and
I know enough.
he basically turned the whole team vegan.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's made a huge difference.
I mean, you know, I had this amazing vision years ago. I sort of forgot about this piece of it, but imagine creating like a first-class athletic training facility and going to the country, Costa Rica, and saying, "Look, you guys hire the trainers. We'll create the facility. Okay, they'll be on site. They're going to follow our program, and we're going to create Olympic teams for you." Because what happens when people clean their body out and then eat a raw vegan diet? is amazing. Performance, amazing. I mean, I'm not an athlete. I spend 15 minutes a day training. But people who are willing to actually train will create amazing results when they get their bodies clean and eat this way. So I thought, how cool would it be? I mean, imagine, right, if all of a sudden, out of nowhere, little tiny Costa Rica starts, like, even if they're showing up, maybe not winning, but like they had nobody before. They weren't even contenders, and now all of a sudden, they've got like contenders in various sports.
Bahamas, the Golden Girls, Golden Knights.
Right. So but all of a sudden, it's like what's happening? There'd be a lot of PR. What's happening? Well, what's happening is these athletes have all changed their they fasted. This is what they're doing. Their performance. That'd be cool, huh? That's not an impossibility.
Like they asked Usain Bolt's father. You know who Usain Bolt is, right?
Yeah.
Fastest man in the world.
Right.
They asked him, what's the key? He said, my son trains up in the mountains and he eats those yams. Everything is grown up there. Root food,
Yeah.
Jamaican food.
Yeah.
So it's diet and atmosphere.
Does he live in the Bahamas?
No, he's Jamaican.
Jamaica, right.
Yeah. But the Bahamas has, we have quite a few gold medals and silver medals. The girls 4x4 and the men's 4x4.
In athletics.
Yeah.
Okay, so I missed a lot because I needed to go into the meeting.
That's all right.
Yeah.
We want to create the
yeah.
same
You didn't
thing
miss
here.
so much.
Training.
Were you talking about like the investment or something about money or not at all?
We did talk about money a little bit. Yeah.
In a nutshell, what was it?
Lots are probably going to be 50 grand, and there's going to be an opportunity to come up with 10 grand as a deposit and then pay the balance over time. That's what we talked about money-wise.
Okay, so this is like the goal. So 10,000 is like, okay, this
10,000 would be your buy-in to,
your buy.
and it will be possible for people to be there as well without being owners, renting space. There'll be lots of possibilities. With the permaculture piece, there's lots of people who will come and work woofing.
And what exactly am I buying in? I mean,
That you own a lot where you can build or have someone build a house. You have access to the preserve and the botanical gardens, free for you. And there's the opportunity to buy into or run a business in the community, which means you have the ability to earn an income.
what is in for you if you have the 50,000?
I'm sorry, what's that?
But if you invest 50,000 over the time, I mean, so you need the initial 10,000 to get the.
That's a deposit.
Loan, yeah, deposit.
Right.
From the bank and so on. I understood that.
Right.
And so if I come up with this by February, and I contact you and I tell you about it.
Right.
And then in, I don't know, what time frame, a couple of years or something, I come up with the other 14,000?
Yeah, I'm not, no, my guess is you would probably have at least 10 years to pay off the balance. The idea is to make it possible for people, not so it's so difficult. A couple of years would be difficult for a lot of people. If you had to pay 40 grand in a couple of years, that's going to be difficult for a lot of people.
But if you can.
Well, probably what we'll do is we'll offer some incentives for people that can do that can pay up front or pay faster. But there'd be, or maybe it's just, maybe it's you have time, but there'd be interest if you're paying over time.
And for example, if I would buy me in, I would come to Costa Rica maybe just in 10 or 20 years and not right now. You know what I mean? Like for example, if I reserve my place, but for a time in the future, if I'm not yet willing to move out of Germany. So
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'd have to figure some of that out. The idea is to actually build a community.
Yes, I know.
So if everyone buys their they're placed in the community, but no one's actually living there. We don't really have much of a community.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, we have to figure that out, what that would look like.
Maybe potentially he could rent his place out to somebody who wanted to rent that couldn't buy or something.
Well, unfortunately, that's a little challenging in an intentional community. Because if everyone's renting their place out, then we've got all these other people there who aren't community members and who may not subscribe to what we believe, what we're about. I think what's going to be possible, there's another opportunity that might make more sense for someone like you, which would be where the retreat center is. We need housing there too. And you could own something there that you can occupy when you want, and that we could have a management team manage for you and rent out for you when you're not there. And that way, you have a place you can stay. It's not part of the intentional community. And you don't have necessarily have the benefits of intentional community membership. But you have a place you're there, you can be there when you want to be, and you still have access to everything that's there. But you're not actually part of the intentional community. Because if you're not living there,
Yeah.
right? Now, when you're ready, then it may be possible to come in. It may not be possible. I can't say. It may be entirely possible that, again, as if we can acquire enough land, that let's say we completely fill up the intentional community, we might start another one across the valley on another piece of land. We're still going to be able to preserve the vast chunk of the land. I don't know how much, but maybe what we do is we commit to preserving 85% of it and leave ourselves a little bit of leeway. I think that's still a pretty significant accomplishment. If we can preserve thousands of acres of land, we're going to have to develop some to be able to do that.
Yeah. And what if I deposit like the 10,000 grant and, for example, never go there? What's it in for me in the long run? You know what I mean? Is there
Well, I'm not sure I completely understand your question. So you're asking...
But I want to make it happen.
Right, you want to help make it happen?
Yes.
Okay, so...
But I can't promise if I ever move to Costa Rica. This is the problem.
Right, okay. So it might be that the way for you to invest would be a different avenue. It might be that this particular piece, which is buying into the intentional community, doesn't make sense for you. But there might be other ways you could take that money and invest it in the project.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be looking for people who can invest in the project. And not just people who want to live there, but also people who have money to invest. After a newsletter I sent out in March, I got an email from a guy who said, Loren, he said, I live in Portugal, and I'm from the UK. I live in Portugal, and I've been following your work for years. I'd love to come fast to you eventually, but in the meantime, I saw this newsletter, and I'm interested in investing in the community. And so 2 months ago, I can't remember the timing now, whenever it was, it might have been sometime early August. So yeah, a month and a half ago, I was in Portugal. I went to see him. And it was great to meet in person, because he said, I'm expecting this investment to pay off around October, and I can't, no promises, but my wife and I might have $1 million to invest. He said, they're not interested in moving. She's Portuguese, they want to stay there. They live on a beautiful island. Anyone know Madeira? It's not part of mainland Portugal. It's actually 1,000 kilometers from Portugal. It's 300 kilometers from the Canary Islands. It's way down there. It's really more off the coast of Africa than Portugal. But they're happy there. They've got a climate where they can grow avocados and mangoes and lots of cool things. They've got a beautiful place. So we're probably not going to move, but we want to support the project. They want to invest in something they believe in. So that would be a way to do it. You could do the same thing. It doesn't have to be $1 million. It could be $950,000.
So
Hey, thanks for watching. If you're interested in more information about fasting in general, We've got a playlist there. If you're interested in fasting for specific conditions, you can check out that list. If you want to hear what people's experience was in their own words, we've got a group there, and then we've got another one which is all about optimal diet, how to maximize your health.